If you watched the opening night live presentation from Gamescom, you might, like us, have realised that there were bugger all Nintendo Switch games. So we thought we would put together our own list of the best games we've seen at the show so far to give you a general idea of our experience.
Yeah, as Mark said, watching that opening night it was a bit worrying if you are a Nintendo Switch owner, but fear not, we do have you covered with some very good games coming, some of which are coming very soon. So which games are they exactly? Well, let's find out.
Alright, let's start off with one that I think Glen's going to enjoy, and it is a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game called TMNT Mutants Unleashed.
Yeah, this is set in the same universe as the recent movie. I think it's set directly after that movie, picks up on the events, loosely I would say, of that film, and looks to be, I'm guessing, a 3D action game of some description, whether it's more of a brawler or a platformer, I'm not quite sure, judging by the trailer, but it does go for a similar art style to that film, not quite as stylised as you would expect, and I do feel that the turtles' eyes are slightly dead. Wish I just animated their eyes a little bit more, but it does have some of the classic characters in there, as well as a few new mutants as well for the turtles to fight, and that one's out fairly soon, isn't it? October the 18th.
Next up we've got Core Keeper. Now this one was out previously on PC, does have quite a fan base actually, so it was interesting to see an announcement a while back, but we actually got to try it out at Gamescom, and it's looking good. It's also, I noted, like only 15 quid, which is like bang on the money for this type of experience. Now in terms of what it is, it looks like a mixture of different elements. You've got this kind of building up of your hub area, haven't you, where you can like do almost like Stardew Valley style things, and then you can also go out on like dungeon crawling through biomes and things.
Yeah, it definitely looks as if dungeon crawling is the key component, I would say, but there's definitely some sort of town building element to some degree. It'll be interesting to see whether it's procedurally generated or if it, obviously it's more handcrafted than that in terms of either the dungeons or the town building for that matter. But just to touch on the aesthetic for a minute and the graphics, they do look quite wonderful, don't they? It's that really high-end, top quality pixel art with some lovely lighting, judging by the trailer at least. Really does do the game justice.
Yeah, it really does, yeah. Quite wonderful, I'd say. Next up one, and a very cool story behind this. It's a game called The Nightling. It's made by the dev team Twirlbound, who made the game Pine, which when it launched was terrible. I was at the Gamescom today just walking around the stalls, and I had this guy tap me on the back and he was like, Mark, you're from SwitchUp. You're the guys that re-reviewed our game after launch and basically got it some positive coverage after its initial downfall. So it was really cool to meet those guys. The game that they've created this time is in collaboration with Saber Interactive, which they were very proud about, to be honest, and their booth was absolutely amazing. It's called The Nightling, and it's like a mixture of 3D Mario with 3D Zelda.
Yeah, no, it does. It looks, as you say, like a blend between the two. Very nice. It'll be interesting to see how much it takes from those sort of games. You could see the like the gliding mechanic from Zelda, couldn't you, and all those bits. So yeah, it'd be good to see the finished product.
So yeah, just a big thanks to those guys. Like, it was a very cool conversation. I've had a lot of conversations today and not all of them were as cool as that. So yeah, cheers to you. We'll definitely be covering that when it releases on the Nintendo Switch, and congrats for the collaboration with Saber. Next up we've got King of Meat. Now this was one of the few games that was actually in the show. I think one of 3 perhaps that was in there. It's interesting. It's like a mixture of like arena co-op game and brawler.
Yeah, this was the one, I think I'm right in saying, that had the like Splatoon feel to it, didn't it? Not in terms of the weapons and the paint and whatnot, but just in terms of the general gameplay. And it did look good, I must say. Even watching the the opening night live as we were there, it was one that caught my eye, despite irrespective of it coming to the Switch. It just was a bit of colour in what was otherwise a very shooty bang bang night, wasn't it? But yeah, no, I do like the look of this one. Again, it just depends whether they mesh it all together well, but one that I will be keeping an eye out for.
Yeah, I think the thing you said there about the meshing it together being like key really to whether they pull it off, I think is the thing. For me, I wasn't overly infused by any of the games that were shown, if I'm honest. Most of the ones in this list are ones that we kind of went around and had a look at and said, yeah, they're all right, apart from one, Little Nightmares 3. That looks very good, doesn't it?
It does look very good, and having played the other two, I think I reviewed the second one on the channel. They're definitely games I enjoy. This one looks as if it's introducing co-op, which I don't think the second game had. It did have 2 characters. My biggest bugbear with these games so far, well, there were 2 actually. The first one had terrible loading times, and they did fix that for the sequel, so that was good. They still, both games so far, have controlled quite awkwardly, and I'd like to see them fix that for this third game. I think they're very good games. I like the puzzle element. I love the macabre nature of them. That some of the, like the boss fights in air quotes that you have with some very strange characters that are great. But if you get into the third game of a series now, you've got to refine everything. So I'd like to see those controls nice and tight this time around.
Next up we've got Gory Cuddly Carnage, and it's from Wired Entertainment. This one was actually a very pleasant surprise. So I played it not on Switch, it has to be said. I played the, I think it was the Xbox build, and it's unexpectedly good. And I mean that in the nicest possible way. I did actually say it to the lady that I met there. It's really very impressive, it's very polished.
Yeah, this one's out on Switch next week, isn't it?
Yes.
Of all the games, I think this is the the one to come out next, and it certainly has an interesting premise. It has to be said. So you play as a cat who has a talking hoverboard. Yeah. I think I'm right in saying, and you're taking on a bunch of like mutated toys. So some of the designs I've seen for those toys, you get kind of like a Five Nights at Freddy's feel, or that kind of quite I don't know, nightmarish feel to them, but all done with tongue firmly planted in cheek.
Yeah, and strangely it's R-rated, so it's full of swearing, and it has a mode that you can toggle to turn that off, so it's like beeps and whatnot. And like you're fighting against evil unicorns, and you're like slicing them up, and there's blood going everywhere. But then you've got these like Jet Set Radio style grinding sections and stuff, and it's very good, very nice controls. I was just surprised. I'm like, where the heck's this come from? It's coming out next week. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's a strange one for sure. Just even like the character, I know he's a cat, so take that out of it, but he looked like Marty McFly, with his hoverboard, and he's got like jeans on and stuff.
Now, a game that I hadn't seen at all, literally, is the Karate Kid Street Rumble beat 'em up.
Yeah, no, it's a beat 'em up, and I do like my beat 'em ups, and it's got a lovely pixel art style. I mean, a lot of beat 'em ups, to be fair, do use pixel art, but this one, for me at least, it looks like that new Double Dragon, the Gaiden game, as well as Scott Pilgrim, but it's a bit more anatomically correct. The proportions are a bit more in line with what you'd expect, but it looks lovely, really nice. I mean, obviously it's a trailer, but judging by that trailer, nice, smooth, really good moves, fluid animation, really colourful and vibrant. Could be a good game. Yeah, this could be one to watch out for. Be interesting to see if it's got co-op. It wasn't clear by the trailer, unless you've seen something I haven't. There's a lot of characters shown in it, but it's not clear whether it's players playing together or not,
Yeah, I think you can bet your bottom dollar it's going to be co-op. Like, if it isn't, then it's going to be a massive missed opportunity. But yeah, we'll find out when it comes out. Unlike most of these, that is one that we've just seen a trailer of, so yeah, not much we can give you.
Now, one that has been known about for a good while now, and I think we had on like an anticipated list, I don't know, a good year ago, if not longer, is the Plucky Squire, which just looks delightful, doesn't it? It looks like a lovely game, and recently it's had its release date announced, which will be the 17th of September of this year, so looking forward to that one. It's got a really interesting concept of the character coming out from the pages of the book, sometimes going back into the pages, which will change not just your perspective, but also the art style used at times as well, by the looks of it. Obviously with that release date now very close, and this is, I would say, right up there.
Yeah, completely agree. That style switching as well, it's something that could easily become a heavy gimmick, isn't it? But it looks like here it doesn't become that, from what we can see, at least in the early stages. Like Glen says, sometimes you're in the pages of a book, sometimes you're in a 3D world, and then a page of paper will actually like go up an edge so you can climb. It's very clever.
It really is. One thing I will say, I hope I'm wrong, and I think I will be actually, I think I've seen enough to discard this, but games like the Yoshi games, which use a really beautiful, quite unique art style, like Woolly World, whilst they are good games, I'm not criticising them, but I personally do find that I start to tire of their mechanics as you go through each level. So I hope that's not the case here, but it does look like this does have enough that it will keep you interested as you go through.
Yeah, so what you're saying is it needs to be more than just a pretty picture, but you're welcome.
This battle against the horrid Humgruff should prove to be no exception. Foes will be felled as the fair folk of the land cheer Jot on.
Next up we've got Tales of Iron 2, and I think the guys are called Oddbug Studios, but I met basically like the head developer. If you're not the head developer, we'll fist bump anyway because you're a cool dude and we were chatting for ages. But they've done a lot to improve the game over the original, which it has to be said was already excellent.
Yeah, Tales of Iron, the original, on the Switch was a very good game, one that we reviewed and scored pretty well from what I remember. And this one is looking, and you played some of this, didn't you? And not just looking then, it's playing very, very well indeed.
Easy for you to say. Yeah, no, they've tweaked a lot of the mechanics actually. It feels great. You've got like the castle that you start out in, and you play as the son of the king, and he takes you out basically to train you. That's the tutorial. And within the first few minutes on the demo, I basically crafted like a new weapon. So I went from like an axe to a spear, although it didn't expect me to do that because some of the dialogue was like, you really enjoyed hacking that down with your axe. So, sorry developer, I broke your game already. But you fight an early boss and it just teaches you the mechanics. The new mechanic, and one idea that I do like, and you're going to like this as well, Glenn, because it's like Monster Hunter, is you can sharpen your weapon. Now, interestingly, the story that from the developer was that initially you'd be bouncing and stuff like you do in Monster Hunter when you hit with a blunt weapon, but they thought that was just a bit too harsh and it kind of ruined the fun in this type of game. So instead, when it's sharp, it's just quite a significant buff.
I'd say that's a good compromise. Monster Hunter's a bit different. You can, conceivably run away and hide for a while and do what you got to do, whereas in a game like this, I think that would be a step too far. But that's a good, nice little addition, isn't it?
Definitely. Now, they haven't given us a release date on that one, but I really feel like it's very soon. That's the general vibe that I got. So I would say September, October, November, or December, Glenn.
See, I was going to go for January, February, March, or April. So we'll see who's right, won't we?
And for all. But you won't defeat Count Kazak and his dreaded Sky Scorchers alone.
Another one that's coming out soon then, we have Beyond Galaxy Land. Now, I must say this is another one that I really do like the look of. Up there with the Plucky Squire. Although with this one, I must admit, judging by the trailer, I couldn't really tell exactly what you were going to be doing. But I did love the concept. You always say you love space. I mean, you say that a lot. He loves space. See, I do, not as much as you, but in different ways. Like this reminds me of Red Dwarf, which is, if you're not from England, a comedy show we've had going on here since the late 80s. Really, very good show, very funny. And that have like that ragtag crew of misfits that are going on missions and stuff. I just got that feeling from this. I might be completely wrong. I suppose Guardian of the Galaxy would be a newer and more popular comparison to make. But it looks as if it has active turn-based combat, and it's a sci-fi RPG. Again, really nice art style. And it's I don't think the trailer sells it as well as it could, because just on what I saw alone, I was intrigued, but I didn't have enough.
Yeah, we were intrigued but confused. But yeah, it has that active turn-based combat. You've got boss fights in there, so you can kind of piece together that it's like a semi-open world sci-fi adventure game, just with that type of combat in it. It's an RPG basically in space, where you're moving from planet to planet. So yeah, I do really like the look of this one. You are a smeek head, Glenn. No one knows what we're talking about. That's fine. Nothing new there.
Across the far reaches of the galaxy, to assemble a ragtag crew of specialists that might.
Okay, the penultimate game that we're going to look at then is the legendary Broken Sword, the remaster that we're getting. Now, you might be a bit confused. We had a director's cut on some platforms that extended the original game, but it didn't remaster the visuals. This one is a complete reworking of everything. I think they said they had 15 different animators working for, I think it was like 7 months or something, to redraw and reanimate absolutely every aspect of the game. There are more details in it as well. There's things like a shadow on the character, there's shadows on the floor, which would be very difficult to do. And you'll have to excuse me, Glenn, because I went to the meeting for this one, so probably best that I talk about it.
Why break the habit of a lifetime? Yeah, I'll give you the mic, shall I?
Thanks, it looks a bit heavy in your hands. So yeah, I spoke to Charles Cecil, the creator of Broken Sword, and I mean that in itself was absolutely epic because he also worked on Beneath a Steel Sky, one of my favourite games ever. So far this is looking incredibly good. It was a Kickstarter, so if you kickstarted it you'll be getting a physical edition, etc. We will have a review of this as well, 100%, even though you played the game before. But there are a number of quality of life changes as well. He's changed the way that you interact with items. He's added in a few extra lines of dialogue that they found that were never used, which is quite cool, and remastered the audio as well. So expect good things out of this one, even if you've played it before. And please do support it, because although I don't want to reveal all the details of our conversation, support it if you're a fan of Broken Sword. Nice one.
Good stuff. And the final one then is Selfloss, which we played a nice amount of on one of our days there at Gamescom. And this is really coming along nicely, isn't it? This looks lovely. So it's based on Slavic folklore and sees you playing as a man that is helping people to pass over, I think I'm right in saying. And to do so, he needs to find an item that was personal to them, and also, is it the Selfloss fish? And the basic idea is you go around in like a 3D environment solving puzzles to get these items for each of the characters that you encounter. It's very much like Bramble, I would say, if you played that game. Not just in terms of its mechanics at times, but also where it has that almost innocent feel that's got a dark undertone, and that becomes more prevalent as you play. And we played, for a good hour or so on this, didn't we actually? It must have been, and really enjoyed our time with it.
Yeah, very much like Bramble, like you say. Very macabre kind of moments happen where you meet unusual creatures. There's a section where you're trying to sail your boat up and this weird sea monster's blowing you back, and there's puzzle in there. There's an early boss fight featuring a mermaid, which was absolutely nails, wasn't it?
Yeah, she's like screaming and pushing you into the rocks, siren style, and you have to open the door behind her using symbols on the wall, lighting them up to get through. And that's another element of the game, is using your staff, which can emit light to try and get rid of the poison that's corrupting the world. Very good so far. Really enjoyed what we played, and we played it on the Switch in handheld mode as well, and it was ran very, very well indeed, didn't it? And it ran very smoothly indeed, didn't it?
Yeah, it looks surprisingly good. I think they won't mind me saying it's one of the best looking games in terms of initial performance, as well as the overall presentation in terms of resolution and things like that we've had in a long time. So they've done some great work on it, and it's exciting to see. Actually, we do have a lot of games at Gamescom for the Nintendo Switch, even if they don't want to show it when there's a good 15 minutes of Call of Duty you can watch.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, so hopefully you've enjoyed that, and we've given you a bit more insight as to what was there if you are a Switch owner and did watch the opening night on YouTube, or if you were there in person. Let us know of any games that we've not mentioned, or let us know what you think of the ones we have. Stick it all in the comment section below.
Absolutely, yeah. Thank you to all of you that enjoy the content, to our Patreons and our members, and as always, for all things Switch all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers, guys. See ya!
Can I have the mic now then, can I? Thanks for your life story, bloody hell. Rock climbing, did you have for a few hours? That was interesting. I went rock climbing with them afterwards, actually. Thank you very much. Yep, no, literally never seen it. I've never heard the correct use of literally, to be fair to you. You so badly. Ever. Quite literally.
Think of the game.
Looks good. Go rock climbing with them for hours. Checking. Just washing my hair, mate.